Let me go first. Did you turn it up? Okay. Hi, I'm appreciative of all of you coming out in this weather. I'm Melissa Courtney. I'm a creative director with Reggie for Reginald Baylor Studio. And as you can see, we do product, content, and services. The Reginald Baylor Studio has a lot of initiatives outside of just product, content, and services that we intend to reach. I think a lot of things creating artist-wise, business-wise. Obviously, we're all interested in and we all understand. But I think that we all are kind of here because we're interested in a movement. And with talking about it being a movement, I think movements happen when we all team together. And with Reginald Baylor Studio, I'd like to talk about, or we are going to talk about, no matter whatever question you got, basically, is going to happen, is our team. Jessie Bell in the back and Christina. I'm not quite sure who's all here. But we're interested in creating a movement, and with that is the team. I'm not even sure if I answered your question. I just started to ramble.
Good.
Oh, all right. Nice.
Tell me what you're ready to tell me.
Oh, now I'm supposed to ramble?
So say who you are, what your background is, what your vision is for Reginald Baylor Studio.
Well, yeah, quit driving a truck to paint full time to be a fine artist. Made fine art, I think, but then could no longer afford to make the fine art I wanted to make. It wasn't that I couldn't afford to make artwork, I couldn't afford to make the art I wanted to make. And so if I can't make the art I want to make, then I don't just make anything. So that, so we started, and it was also because I'll be honest with you, I was so interested in making the same amount of money as a painter as I did as a truck driver. And I never did it. It never happened. And that bugged me. To me it meant sustainability, because I left sustainability, which also allowed me to make paintings because I can afford to make paintings when I was a truck driver. And then when I stopped being a truck driver, I could no longer afford to make paintings. So we started like, okay, what can we afford to make? And because we like making, but then we also love. We talk about all the time. I'm one of those people at the end of the movie. I like watching the credit lines because I'm fascinated with how many people made the thing that we just watched, that experience, and that community is where I'm the most comfortable. I'm in that community, and I'm comfortable around the key grip. I'm comfortable around the camera person. I'm comfortable around the makeup artist. I'm comfortable around that. So we envision how can we make and design experiences, Milwaukee experiences that have credit lines that long. And that means everyone in this room could be doing something now, and we could compete nationally with it. But also, what we're also very focused on is employing everyone, because employment, all the people on the credit line got employment. And we also know that really ultimately is the creative industry, is the employment of our services. It's not what we produce or not the product we make. It is, the product is one point, but selling it is the industry. Creative is something, but industry is selling it. So we try, we really like selling stuff. It's important.
How many people are on your team?
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness. It depends on what, I mean, I can just give you a general overview. We have film and editing, which is Christina right there, photography. Various artists, who contribute their work to products, animators, designers.
Della, we had Della, Pamela, we worked with, Stephen. We had contracts. We independently contract. We come with an agreement. and we form some type of contract, and usually there's money that exchanges in some form, at least we hope to.
Well, and that's something that's important to us, is that we see that in Milwaukee, what needs to happen for us to be known as something of the creative industry is to start employing the creative industry, simply put. And I think what Reggie and I succeed at is allowing them all individually to do what they do well. Obviously, we have production designers who, at times have to, like the Flash Wall, have to do things under our curation, but still there's a lot of people in the creative industry who want in on Reginald Baylor Studio because because of our mission. We want to move.
There's been correlations made between what you guys are doing and Andy Warhol and Takashi Murakami and other artists, and do you see the connection there? Do you embrace that connection, and do you differ, and if so, how?
Yes, they all have factories, and Tyler Perry has factories, and creatives are having factories, and and we know it's the creative industry also is friendly to employment, because especially from the way we look at it, because we actually prefer untrained creatives. You know what I mean? Really, do you know how to use a camera? And can you edit? And can you edit differently than everything that you've heard or seen before? So, I think if the city had an imagination, it's a lot of employment around having imagination, but also really, really truly believe, again, it's not the products that we're interested in, it's the culture. We're moving further and further away in trying to pitch items or paintings or prints or t-shirts or anything. But the people that printed the t-shirts, the people that designed the t-shirts, the neighborhood the t-shirts were designed in.
The story behind it.
Yes, right, because the number of people that we work with to do these t-shirts was astronomical. It's amazing. I moved away from painting and completely into my laptop. It takes me more laptop time to create a t-shirt than it took me brush and paint time to make a painting. And I like that. Because instead of me focusing on my artwork, I'm communicating with my community, my culture. It's a surprise every day.
When just kind of perusing and doing a little background research on what you guys are doing, I've noticed that you use the word concepts a lot to just describe what you're doing. And so would you consider yourselves conceptual artists of the modern day?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. There's a part of me, when you're asking that, I go back to, I graduated from MIAD with a couple degrees in paint and printmaking, and then I sold work, and I actually got the one only job at the art museum in the education department, and my job was to teach young children and adults. And then I forced the art museum to let me start doing lectures the way I wanted to do lectures and the way I thought the story of work should be told. And a lot of times I would have a group of 20-some people who are willing to take my lecture. And they all wanted to know about the pieces that we all know is called conceptual art, I'll just say. And in no way did I sit there and talk about the work. Maybe we hinted at craftsmanship. The frame is nice. They really stretched the canvas really great. Things like that. But truthfully, what people wanted to know is the story behind it. And I started to, I'll just say, conceptualize that aspect of it. In that, as creatives, and this is just coming from me, that we're essentially products. They want to know what it is and where they can see themselves within it. And I'm talking about, the story I just said about the art museum, and I'm also talking about us. what we have here, everyone can find a story that they can tie themselves to what we do. You know, I can dive deep into, you know, some of the service aspect of what we do too, but it really is universally for everyone. So, are we modern day conceptual artists? Sure, I don't care, almost.
Break it down to the Coca-Cola anymore.
Oh, yeah, it does relate to that, how, Andy Warhol, I'm sure it's a universal quote that a lot of us have heard. He really loved how the president could be drinking Coca-Cola and the person sitting at the bus stop was drinking the same Coca-Cola. And that it's universal, it's for everyone. Reggie and I talk about how we want things to be accessible, just as much, you know, as Andy Warhol.
It seems like you guys are always chewing on some new brilliant idea, things are evolving and you just kind of roll with it. Is there anything on the surface that we can kind of look out for and expect to see in the near future that you're willing to share?
Well, yeah, I think I think the most daunting task we've been approached with lately is our website. Those graphics on that wall take you to another place. And so each of those graphics are being built. And some of it is video, some of it's products, some of it is commissions, some of it is all these other things. So, you know, we realize that our online experience is where we feel we can compete nationally. You know, and we also realize that since we have a retail space, which is on Florida Street, it is virtually impossible to get someone to come to your house. It is insanely impossible. And I'm not even mad about it because I don't go anywhere. Anyone invites me to. So I'm not even mad. Hey, come to my place and buy something. Okay. I'll be right over. So, you know, we realize that too, that you know, the concept to me, you know, from being a painter to, you know, doing fine art prints, to doing retail, to just staying open. And where I'm in that just staying open phase. And it's actually interesting because now everything's open. Absolutely, I'm having more fun, I think, than I ever had before, knowing that the rules have completely changed. You know, we all know that retail rules are completely different. Everything has to be reinvented, which then I think is why the creative industry is so perfect, because the experiences that we can design are the answer to a lot of industry issues. That's another thing I think we have as an asset is how much research we do and how we share in articles that, you know, validate and support everything we are in a mission of. One of the things we found out is the medical industry, the legal industry, and insurance and construction have all spent the most money in sponsoring the arts than any other industry in the country. Right. I mean, think of that. Right. But that information is out there. So we take that information and the telegenic video series that's in the first room are all property developers that paid us to go out and create a film about neighborhoods that they're wanting to invest in. Because one of the issues that property developers have to face is they're considered potential gentrificators. And so there has to be a connection, and in order to make that connection, the connection is distributed and displayed, and the conversation is exhibited and absorbed the most through the arts. And all these corporations have done the research. And the industries that we're talking about are the highest research industries in the country. Medical, development, insurance. They're always predicting 50 years ahead. and they're paying the creative industry for.
Which is, you know, like you said, what we've experienced with the telegenic, and then in the last few months, our interior beautification projects with Freighter in the Medical College of Wisconsin up in Mequon and Brookfield.
And
So, I mean, reading that article, Reggie and I are like, oh my gosh, it's true. It's us.
well, then anything we pitch, we'll pitch the thing while we're there. We want to make something pretty. And then we'll say, okay, we figured out something we're going to make pretty, but guess what? We're going to make a film documentary about it. And we're going
t-shirts.
And t-shirts. And everything else from this art expression that you call this for. And then, so now we've gotten into their marketing department. And they go, wait a minute, our marketing department is not making any films about anything we're doing that's beautiful. And well, yeah, that's what we do. We need the full package. So that's why also you see the camera. I'm a fan, when we talk about it all the time, the MTV movement. How music went from radio to the visual world. I think the same thing, art does extremely well on social media. We actually control the most movement on social media because it's just simply beautiful. And it's just better than all the other shit that you see on social media. And that is financial leverage. You can literally take that data and we can go to any corporation and says the visual arts produce, I think, 70% of the greatest success on social media likes or dislikes. Well, and retail produces the least. Retail is around 15% action rate. So the creative industry can go to retail and say, I'll give you 15 shares. Now I'm at 55%, but now you're at 30. I'm still better than you, but I sold you 15 shares. That's how we're doing it. We can sell our strength, our attraction. You know what I mean? It's theatrical. We also compare it a lot to sports. I mean, that's just like the biggest theater hypnotized experience you possibly can have. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It absolutely doesn't matter at all.
That's an interesting
and again,
connection
more
to
interested
make.
in the story behind it.
Yes. So what if the creative industry was more about, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's about the culture of you performing. The sports is the culture of the performance, consecutively, continuously, daily, repetitively, over and over and over, and it's all broadcast. And because it's broadcast, it is now sponsored by every corporation in that city that supports that talent. So our model, our business platform is the same thing. Cultivate, a team, and have your local sponsors realize that this team is battling for your city, competitively, nationally. And it doesn't matter if we win or lose. It's the representation of our talent that makes you worthy.
The show title, Manufacturing Creativity, is that really your motto? But I mean, you guys shot that out at me immediately when I came and talked to you guys. What should the title be? Manufacturing Creativity. So where did you guys come up with that, and how? Is that really where you guys are going with it? Is that like the overall theme of what you guys are doing? Is that your mission?
Well, the origin came from, it came from my childhood experience. I just remembered just being fascinated by scale. I can make a painting, or you can make soup. Now, a manufacturer takes that same one soup recipe that you made and then says, okay, let's make 50 soups from the one recipe. So I was always fascinated by, again, which is very Andy Warhol, very pop art. Why am I limited to one painting? Why can't I make more? Which is also why I like fashion. And our respected musicians sell a lot of copies, not a few. your success is based on how many copies you sell and how many stadiums you fill up. So that side of manufacturing in scale and making the products accessible is a manufacturing term. But as far as our practice,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, manufacturing is a broad term, but, you know, to me, it talks about a team. I come from a really big family, and Reggie and I talk about, or I constantly tell Reggie about how I love things that are well-run machines. You come from a big family, and it's a good example of, you know, who's making the ham, who's making the rolls, who's making the potato salad, and everybody has a part. You know, what do you do well? What's your role? Are you the person who fixes cars? Are you the person who's going to be our electrician? You're going to be our dentist? I mean, those things are real. And I think for me, you know, when talking about manufacturing creativity, it's the same thing. How can we all become a well-running machine in the creative industry? And you know, I mean, for me, I can see it. I can see it. I lived it. You know, we all survived.
As someone who has a background in art history and business, I really, and being a university gallery, I really had to create that for myself. That's not something that is necessarily put together naturally in our education system at this point. And that is art history, and it's also art, I think. And it's kind of cliche to talk about the business side and selling out and selling your work, but that is the reality of it. It's kind of gotten this negative connotation to it. You guys have no shyness about it, which I really admire, and that's really why I reached out to you guys, because that's also something that I very much push and support. Do you have, and you were in education, right, with MAM and other departments, do you have any advice for UWM students or any art students that are getting into the creative industry and are kind of unsure about how to navigate that world upon graduation?
Graduating with what?
In the arts.
Just in the arts?
Yeah, in general.
I would, yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I guess I have to say that, you know, I graduated from MIAD, and I knew that I wasn't the type to sit in a studio all day and sit around and wait and hope and dream that someone was going to buy a two-dimensional something off the wall. And what do I do with that knowledge? So I guess my advice would be in reaction to me empathizing with myself being in their situation, even, you know, that was 20 years ago for me now, but is to educate yourself on business and not work in a silo. You can't do it on your own. And in my mind, you're not going to want to do it on your own, and it's not actually good for the community to work on your own. I think the business aspect of it would be that you have to think outside of the box. Romanticizing putting something on a wall and hoping that it will be appreciated and loved and adored is one thing, but and inspirational, you know, that's an inspirational thought, but then there's work, and it's work. You know, I think it's just signing up for the entirety of the work, and that might not be what you see in the movies.
yeah, my advice.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But luck doesn't necessarily have everything.
no,
If you work hard, you do that strategic.
Another one of the favorite things to do is when we talk about how fantastic Google is. When you have a question about how do I, you can literally put how do I and fill in the blank. And so when people say how do I, I'm like, check it out. You got 5,000 roads. I'm not sure what land you're headed. You know.
That's true. There's this one book. I don't know if anyone else has ever read this book or seen this book. Maybe everybody has, but neon orange, and in the top, in the cover, all it says is art/work. I think that book might have cost me $20, and I'm still paying off my end right now. Like, and that book taught me so much more than I'm not trying to knock anything, but so I would tell my answer is get the book called Art/Work. It's orange and white. Yep.
But I'm also, and again,
$20.
I'm not one of those people. If I had a time machine and you could go back and you could revisit what you might do, but I really, really, truthfully can feel in my heart if someone told me that my creative attributes could apply to the trades, and then I think that might have opened up some other things that I know I still find myself attracted to. I am a huge custom culture person, vintage cars, custom cars, and things like that. I believe I wouldn't even be standing here right now. I'd be in a garage sanding on a fender and being completely content about being creative. Now, the only thing about that garage is those jobs pay. They pay. But I was told that my creativity applied to art. And I also was told that, you should go to college, which negate both of those things kept me from the automobile garage. It was like, no, not that. This is your gift. You should be a painter. You need to get ahead in life, go to college, find one of these in this slot. And so I said, okay, I'll take the painting thing, because the rest of it was stupid.
Wait, are you sculpture?
Me? No.
Sculpture.
Not stupid in relevance. It didn't apply. I could not sit there. And I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm saying for me, it sounded like I would be stupid in it. I felt like if I went down that path, I'm just going to be stupid. So what am I going to do? I don't care how much a scientist pays or whatever this job does. I know I'm going to feel dumb in it. Well, that was fine, but art did it worse. It made you even dumber than me. Like, you loser. Who cares what you feel? Oh, your feelings, that's so fantastic. Oh, you're so important. Thoughts. But that's, we know that side of the world. I mean, I'll be honest with you, these two right here, right from day one, I think, when I got to Milwaukee, Evelyn and Della and St. Robinson were the first three people I was introduced to. And they all gave some just down-home wisdom.
Which was?
Get in there, good luck. I'm a fan. I'll tell people you're out there. Let me know if there's something I can do. Hey, here's a show. You should probably call this person. Did you do this? I don't know how you sell high. Right?
Yeah, and learn the business.
Learn the business. And that's,
You gotta learn the business aspect.
Yeah.
That's what you spend most of your time doing.
Yes.
Anyway.
Right.
Outside of creating, unless like creating, more on the business side.
Exactly.
I think I would say you definitely have to have passion to follow whatever comes into your head. Just do it.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say too. They laughed at Thomas Kincaid in
Yes.
the art world.
Yeah, drove him crazy too. Broke his
the
heart.
richest artist. And
Yeah.
So you gotta do you.
Yeah, you wait 100 years from now, you have Thomas Kincaid in your collection. See who's laughing then.
Are there any other things that you guys want to touch base on, or we can open up for questions?
No, I think.
I'm good.
Well, I'm ready for questions. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
We did pretty much say everything. So. We did pretty much say everything, so it's okay if you don't have any questions. You said you were gonna say something.
Me? It's getting there.
Okay.
Give me 5
You don't
seconds.
want to be the first?
Okay, I'll think of one.
Okay.
Put me on the spot. I don't even know you. But okay, seriously, what if you when you were truck driving and then the transition to focusing into visual art? Which thing gave you the most freedom, and then how do you define freedom? Do you define it as artistic, creative, expression freedom, or do you define freedom as being driving a truck incessantly down a highway to be able to be free in thought? So which avenue gave you more the avenue for freedom to pursue?
I would say it's the same.
Same.
I mean, yeah, I've always been in the pursuit of the same creative life, whether I was driving a truck or painting. For me, that didn't change. The difference between the truck and painting was straight business. It was all financing. And there's the thing that separated how I felt free between the two. Because I could regulate driving a truck, and I also could get validated, acknowledged, and paid, and appropriately paid, and everything else. In painting, where I had the passion, I didn't have as much financial validation. I didn't have as much service validation. I didn't have as much product validation. It was more of a beg than, hey, I need your help. It was a, hey, I'm an artist, It was really nice to walk into a place and the guy says, here, I'm here to pick up your freight. And he goes, good morning, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. That felt great. Well, so far we've budgeted $3,200.
After spending, $3,000 on 4 proposals, yeah.
So again, and there's where we go into talking like business people, which has little room for emotion, and it is an aggressive place, and that's been again back to what we said is what I didn't when I went to Oshkosh, that wasn't brought up. That wasn't brought up in the art world, and as I built my artwork network, there were a few people that said, hey, don't forget about the business side. But I'm also really, it's really interesting to see how much of the creative industry does not talk about the business side. And, how much often we discuss on how finances is affecting our freedom. How finances affect our freedom. But we realize that if that's the case, you have to paint a business plan. So now I look at my laptop now like I do a painting. So that my artwork and my business now are the same thing. I practice both of them. We practice both of them with as much imagination as we possibly can.
Have you taken any business classes? Or
It's all
training? All how do I?
All
how do I?
Matter of fact, you can spend 10 weeks reading all the how do I's and never actually get at doing it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Which is what a lot of people do. You get addicted to, there might be a different one that has a better how do I. And that becomes something that is, it's self-validating, that I am working towards, and I'm taking the best precautions. Working towards my goal, but never actually getting up and applying the first 3 how do I's.
well, in talking about, the community being a well-running machine, there's mentors to mentor any of us, all of us, on whatever you would like. We have those people. It's a text away. So I'm not quite sure that we would need a education in business because, we
Don't
can
get
find
her
it in
started
everyday
on
life.
schools.
I know.
What
I was gonna make her say.
What about schools? Cause she homeschools her children.
Yeah.
I remember that. And they're very smart.
Well, I mean, everything is different because of technology. Everything's different because of what we said, the how do I. understand schools, and I understand the community and other institutions, and those institutions were built around, all right, this is how you do. But those how do I's require these big buildings, the how do I now are on my phone. And again, that's mathematically, it's just not gonna work out in the long run. I'm trying to, you don't kerosene and gasoline?
Should I ask for another question?
It's a perfect illustration. We talk about horse and buggies in the automobile, smoke signals in the cell phone, flashlights, the light bulb and LED, Morse code, and internet. You know, there's always.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to, no, finish your thought.
No, please. I've got time to hear myself.
I was thinking about kind of how you came to where you are with Reginald Baylor Studio, because I was thinking you were talking about painting and your inability to make money, kind of enough money, the money that you wanted to make doing that. And I thought about, there are artists like, and the one that came to mind, I don't know if this is a great example, is Dale Chihuly, right? Who's got a studio where he brings in people and he teaches them about how to make chihulis, right? And is that something that you considered, and how did you come, I don't know, is that something that you considered, that you would have these apprentices and they would make Baylors, you know?
Candy Wiley, Jeff Koons, Damien Hirst, Picasso,
Yeah.
his pottery, right, all of it. Andy Warhol, the factory, you know, pop shops. Yeah, this is all the byproduct of all those conversations and the fascination with all that. But also, and again, I think, you know, your environment sort of inspires something that motivates you. I also find, again, the fact, again, I'm sorry, I don't want to link it up or go too long, but the thing about being a truck driver was I also spent 12 years watching the decline of manufacturing in the country. One reason I quit driving is because all the factories kept closing. And in all the neighborhoods I kept driving to got higher and higher crime because of unemployment. And more businesses were boarded up and everything else. And one thing I also like to do to keep myself entertained was listen to local radio and hear, okay, this is why this is all happening. And the only thing everyone could say is if we could only manufacture something new. If only we could be a creative country again and creatively come up with something else to manufacture. And I was like, wow, isn't that what artists do? What if fine art was not to exhibit in the gallery, but to rebuild a community? And that's how this is all of this. We are really, really looking at trying to build a brand and employees. And actually, I would like to work at that place. I hope they pay as much as driving a truck. That's the goal. That's the yes, sir.
Can a person pitch an idea, and if so,
Can a person pitch an idea to the studio?
how? You guys,
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
anytime.
Oh, we can't wait.
just gotta ask.
Oh, we
Yeah.
can't wait.
Yeah.
We're actually,
just send
to be
me
honest
them.
with you, I almost willing to bet we're probably, I mean, there are a lot of inclusive groups, and we have like 0 restrictions. We don't care what you do, how you do it, when you do it. We're interested in cultivating a group to represent Milwaukee nationally. That's our goal.
Lunch tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I see the faces. We all know. How many times we talk about the talent that we have talent here?
Yeah.
No one doesn't think that's possible in Milwaukee. We all talk about it all the freaking time, and we see it in the work, and we see it where we go, and we can hear it in our conversations. We just want to bundle that and send it out, and that's what that thing is. And we just really constructed a machine. We are real artists, but we just constructed this machine. And it's fast. Yes.
One thing I like what you're doing, but they're always telling artists what they shouldn't do. Like you shouldn't manufacture t-shirts, you should, but it's always interesting to me that you go in museums and everybody else, they got it on sheets. Everybody else can put it, but they try to tell you that you can't.
Yeah, I just found out, Carrie James Marshall is now doing posters.
Uh-huh.
It's inevitable.
I thought it was
It's
a
inevitable.
Milwaukee artist.
But yeah, I think that's the new fine art, is not Sotheby's and Miami Basel and these exclusive experiences. The fine art is accessibility. I think that there's where you're really, really smart, you're really on top of things, and you redefine, and you've thrown your hands up against the history.
And the other side of what you're talking about too is, like I mentioned from working at the art museum, a lot of times fine art, I would notice, makes people feel stupid. It is, or I would hear, this isn't for me. And, that's why like I said, I got into the storytelling part, because I wanted so bad to go, it really, really is this kind of, this desperate me trying to connect you and what's on the wall type of thing. And I think what we do is go, you're not stupid, look, it's a shower curtain. You know what a bath is, right?
You don't have to like it. I tell people that.
Right, you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it.
I mean, we probably could do a test and put that abstract shower curtain in one room, and then put that abstract as a painting on the wall, and then connect electrodes to them and find out what their nervous system will do. And we all know that the same abstract painting on that shower curtain is going to give them some relaxation, only because it's familiar. Because people see shower curtains on a daily basis. People don't go to galleries and museums on a daily basis. So we're not trying to create tension between the two. We're only meeting people where they are. Meeting people where they are.
Any other questions?
I had a comment. I wanted to say that you said that in Milwaukee, people recognize that there's a lot of talent here. I know we talk about all the talent here all the time, but in meetings, a lot of times people talk about Milwaukee as being second rate to everything else on the earth. And so I think this is a possibility that you can put Milwaukee on the map with this movement, the cultural manufacturing movement that you have going.
It could be a really unique opportunity.
Right. And we've got, as Milwaukee, we've got nothing to lose. Why
Right,
not?
right.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And there's a lot happening. I know some years ago, I did a show in Nashville, and this magazine interviewed me, and I was showing, I get shown their work too. I was showing people's work from Milwaukee and Wisconsin, and the guy said, wow, we should come there. A lot of people have this perception that
It's
you
not.
got cheeseheads and
Yes.
cows.
Right.
Bars. And they're also seeing here, because you're an artist here, that you're not doing anything. I know a lot of artists that are here in Wisconsin
Doing things all over the country.
doing things all over the country and all over the world. But when you hear it, oh, Milwaukee sucks. But like I was listening to Jason Lee talk yesterday. He was talking about how he, did shows, all over the world in museums. But a lot of people don't know.
What we got going.
Yeah, they don't know what a lot of people are doing, so they assume that their reality is everybody's reality. I always say when people say they don't buy work here, we need to change that. They may not be buying work from you. And I think that's a whole, different.
See, that's when I said the wisdom.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah. Someone in the back had their hand up. Yeah.
What mental hurdles did you overcome in order to execute your creative vision?
Jack Daniels. Mental hurdles.
Oh, mental.
So the question is, what mental hurdles did he overcome?
Listening
Jack
to the
Daniels,
voices in my head.
Google Docs, QuickBooks.
Was that the one I was in my studio that you guys said?
But yeah, no,
Oh, yeah, that was David's tech. Yeah.
seriously, technology, laptop. You know, I made a lot of financial decisions with the business that I was comfortable with because I completely hated the computer. But then I really actually didn't have any time to sit around and yap. And I think that's one of my biggest growth over the last year is I'm pretty dope on filing and organizing and set up structures and communicating thoughts and ideas to customers, not creating beautiful paintings, because that got me broke. So going back to creating great work, at that point, I could let go of that. Or not great work, but I thought, you know, I was making work that I was okay with. And so I could let that go at that point and really focus on, again, I want to really, really, truly make a living. And I really, really have this weird, sick love for Milwaukee. And it's the rest of it's crazy.
We have a really great community here, especially the arts. I mean, we all really support each other, and it's,
We're all so fun, it's so much fun when we get together, or it's just. well, you know what I'm saying.
I don't.
What are you saying?
Well, whatever it is, I still see you, and I have access to you.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean, we might not all be in the same place and jive in the same place, but again, we're one call, maybe two calls away from connecting. So-and-so didn't call, can you call them for me?
Mm-hmm.
You can get anyone in the creative industry that way. The whole industry.
very much the small big town. You know?
Yes, right. And that's not gonna last long, if anyone has not been counting the buildings. If you haven't been counting the
Yeah, the
buildings.
hotels
If
and
you haven't
residential
seen it,
units.
yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, you're just not quite there.
Haven't seen what?
Our
Notice how much-
20-year growth.
Yeah,
how
how
fast
much
we're growing.
commercial development and
Yeah.
residential development.
Yeah. it's-
I've been seeing it since the early '60s.
Right. And I can completely understand why certain people wouldn't want a whole lot of people know that it's coming. I get it.
It's the water.
It's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really quickly, I wanted to add, kind of in lieu of buildings and idea of, you talked about like community, not just artistic community, but idea of like how people perceive artists in Milwaukee and the artist community, but also the impact of Milwaukee artists to the surrounding community. We didn't really talk about that, whether it's ideas of separation in Milwaukee community or things like that. So how do you see that being affecting in the years prior? And then moving forward in the 20 years, how do you see art impacting the Milwaukee community? Even ideas of like separation or segregation, things like that. How can we collectively bring things more together in a creative way? Do you see that happening? And also, how has that affected the perception of Milwaukee in their understanding of community?
I'll say one thing, you know, be really short, then you go. I never forget, I think it was on TV, someone said, well, how do you think art's gonna affect your community? And the dude said, I don't need no fucking sculpture, I need a job.
Well, I mean, that's, my only answer
Now
was
we're back to-
employment.
Now we're back to manufacturing creativity. I think,
Yeah, I wasn't cutting you off.
I know, I was done.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I
I mean,
said
you guys
that.
are answering the questions.
It's going to have to be employment. I mean, you know, we've all heard that money talks, and people find value in money. We actually, it kind of reminds me. I'm not trying to go off on a tangent, but one of our research episodes, and the article essentially talked about how the broad term of what the creative industry means and what it means to a community and how people don't value it because they question if it's work. And, you know, and then he kind of the author went on this tangent about what is work and blah, blah, blah. But that's the truth. Like, you know, there's times where I say to Reggie, why can't we just be dental hygienists? You know, you show up, your teeth are dirty, I clean your teeth, I just did the job, I have like a dopamine rush in my head, I did good, you got your teeth clean, job done, right? Or why can't I put tires on? Things like that. But the truth is that I don't, and that's not how my brain and Reggie's brain works. And so what do we have to offer? What we have to offer is to add to our community in the ways that we are. I'm not a good teeth cleaner. I'm not gonna be. So that's what we have to offer. And what we have to offer is to see it as a big picture and not just working independently, creating things for ourselves and making money ourselves. What we have to offer is a grand scheme of making this a movement and employing people, because that is what's going to make a movement. And another tangent with our research is that movements happen out of crisis. And we could say, you know, it's up to you what to think a crisis might be or not. But you know, when I said we have nothing left to lose, we've got nothing left to lose, so why not? You know, we just ask people to take a chance.
I think to tie something in, like I think what Melissa's saying, we always talk about was it Meow Wolf as a great example of painters, sculptors, designers, fashion designers, creating an experience and employ each other, and also bring in $1 million revenue. And most of those people responsible for Meow Wolf now do fine art on the side. They came in as fine artists, found a placement for their creativity, remained fine artists, but then were employed in a culture of all fine artists.
Yeah,
All employed fine artists.
Yeah.
Working full-time and applying completely 100% of their imagination. But the difference between fine arts and that art is, again, the conversation between fine art and design. Those fine artists became designers when they were designing for the Meow Wolf brand. So we're into the design brand, not as much into the fine art practice. Because, you know, we want to sell tickets to enter, and we want to pay for the people that are employed while they're entertaining those who are entering.
So Reginald, who designed Shop Online? How do you,
Who designed that graphic back there?
yeah,
What's it? B2 Design.
okay.
Those two.
So how do you work? You just take an idea and hire that?
Ultimately, what we want to do, and feverishly create a license agreement without a lawyer. We spend a lot of time with that one type. What ideally we want to do is we have the distribution and the vendors to create products. What we'd like to have is just more images. I mean, our website almost can take as much products as Target's website. And our vendors can almost print as much stuff as Target's vendors. Now, what we are also trying to do in growing a brand is to really create and pay attention to sustainable products, and not try and create products that we're adding to waste, and that the things that we're producing, we're really hoping that our buying audience knows that these are for keep or for hand down, or we talked about even in our package to include messages about you repurposing any of our products if you no longer want it, and things like that. But we don't really want, when we say manufacturing creativity, we by no means is interested in competing with anything Amazon is connected to. We really focus on working with keeping our products only if we have a local vendor that can make it. So we spend all our time going to manufacturing places and say, okay, I do die-cut plastic molding. And we'll go online and look at their machines and say, do you think we can get artists that want to play with die-cut plastic molding? Because that guy's on Brown Deer Road. And then we'll look at that and say, well, we could do this. Oh, you know, a Diamond Plastic Molding might make a outlet cover that we can use recycled plastic that has etchings by a local landscape person. I'm just throwing it out there broad. But that's how we think about products. And that is improved the more product designers want to come in on the thing. Like you said, we don't, it's not our responsibility, it's about everybody else's idea. We went to the Maya,
Are you talking about the holiday show? Or
yeah,
something?
the Maya holiday
Yeah.
show, and it was fantastic to see the Maya students, all their exhibitions had products.
Yeah.
And this-
Everybody had a
saw it.
sticker, everybody had a t-shirt.
Everyone had a label.
Everybody had prints.
Everybody had stuff. You're like, ooh. We're like, what are you guys doing? You know, so yeah, we're interested in all kinds of stuff. The technology out there to put your two-dimensional vision on a product is endless. It's endless. Okay. All right, that's probably enough, right?
Pamela had a question.
Oh, hey.
So what I've been watching over the last couple of, or several years, you and I have had many conversations about what you're doing and how we perceive the art world. And so what we see is models changing and how people can build their practices, right? And to me, it just seems that a lot of what's happening in Milwaukee and around the country, not just Milwaukee, that people are appreciating watching art being made in a variety of different ways, and appreciating that and then making the connections to the art, which we've talked about. So then gaining appreciation for art. And what I see is artists taking more control over their practices and the value of art, and making, as you're talking tonight, making art more accessible. So I think art world's changing, and what I love about that is that the artists are taking control of what we're doing, taking some of the power back for our own practices, and I think that's really important. And artists thinking about it in different terms of, I hope I become famous, and you know, I think that I would love to see just a lot more artwork in homes, businesses. And if a lot of artists in Milwaukee could do that and do it well like you're doing, I think the art world, the art community in Milwaukee would be just burgeoning, you know. And I think what you're doing is great.
Yeah, actually this kind of segues into our 30 by 30 show, which we're really kind of going sort of active at Steinhoffel's furniture store, because Steinhoffel's is a Wisconsin company with the purchase of 300-400 easels. They could be selling thousands and thousands and thousands of Wisconsin artists work, along with chairs and furniture. I mean, with a snap of a finger. What a perfect story.
Yeah, furniture stores used to do that. Even Gimbals and
Right.
Marshall Fields,
Right.
they all had Liechtenstein, they had all, department stores selling fine art was where it's at, because it was considered home goods. And again, that's back to what we're trying to do with what we're doing. This is not about, it's not for me, and it belongs in the gallery and museum. No, it belongs in your home. So where do people shop for their home is where the fine art should be. IKEA's, they're trying.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Target stores are doing a decent job collaborating with other artists and making it accessible products, but there's nothing that is, you know, well, first of all, similar to anything here. Yeah.
And again, printing technologies up until now, it still had a little bit difference on what was good quality and bad quality printing. Now, bad quality printing is really good. This is vinyl. We print on vinyl, which is the same stuff that sticks on that wall. You can literally take your finger, wipe it, scratch it, puff it, and it's photo capable. It's photorealistic capable, and it's inexpensive. And I agree with you. People should buy artwork for their homes, but if it costs more than a flat screen TV, they're not going to buy it because that flat screen TV they got one for every room, and it's around $450. So, and that's why we're trying. These are $675. We can't wait to get them down to $450. Can't wait. And we can put any artist work on it. I mean, it's a really nice system. Our framing manufacturers, how it's painted, how everything is inserted, its fasteners, everything was an exercise to try and take a decent piece of artwork and make materials that we know the weights, everything. It's actually fantastic. The process we went to when we priced something and then realized, oh my God, we got to get this in a box. And then the 5 hours of box design with the cardboard people, at the end we realized each box was going to cost $75. And then now the print was another $75. Oh, do we say free shipping? There's no way we can make free shipping. We're only making $200 now off of this print. And then we promised the artists we'd give them 50%. Now we're down to $100 profit. That stuff's that's around day now. But it's fun. It's fun. But you're right, Pamela. Artists aren't artists, they're brands. They're brands.
Any super pressing questions? One last question?
Could you, just a general question in regards to art, could you talk about, maybe your analysis in terms of globalization in art, the impact that each one has on each other?
Globalization.
You have to tell me your question again. What was the question?
Okay, globalization in art, and the impact each one has on each other. Art impacted on globalization impacted on art itself.
Yeah, cultural globalization,
Yeah, what
economic
part of globalization?
whatever you want to do.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, instinctually, I think I just go to language. I mean, if we're talking globalization, I think art is speaking a language that we can all acknowledge. And when I say art, I'm not meaning visual art. I'm talking about dance, food, architecture, everything in the creative realm. A 2-year-old dances without being taught. Music. We can pinpoint times in our life just by hearing the song that meant something to us 20-some years ago. Food. Food obviously a huge thing. What you ate when you were a kid and who it was with and things like that. So I think it's just the language. And, not to trying to turn it into business-wise, but when Reggie and I are in business meetings, a lot of times we talk about this language barrier as to how we speak creative industry-wise, and they speak whatever business that might be, technology industry or medical, marketing, whatever it might be, and essentially we are speaking the same language, and I think I always think to myself. Maybe I speak creative industry and you don't understand what I mean by it, and that might be my ignorance, but I know for sure you were a 2-year-old that figured out how to dance, and I know for sure you hear a song and it makes you cry. I know for sure there has been a painting that either pissed you off or made it so that you couldn't stop, or that you couldn't keep walking past. So I guess I would just say language.
Yeah, I agree. It's the least abrasive form of communication with unfamiliar cultures. Creativity can. It's, you know, you can go to another country and someone might have their traditional clothing on. It feels decorative and warming and welcoming and intriguing. Now, once you start talking, you say, I don't know what you're talking about, but you know what, your display outwardly is interesting enough to make me attracted. You know, I think that's one of my favorite things about fashion, is sort of a community identifier, whether you're a soldier, a hipster,
Yeah.
Harley Davidson
Yeah,
person,
your
a
uniform.
sports person. I think the arts can deliver sports nationally, you know, through a uniform, or it can deliver a conversation through design, or, you know, it's a great barrier. Hip hop music was the fastest growing music culture in the history of mankind, period. And by the time there was an Indonesian hip hop group, it was only 10, 15 years. That never happened with jazz, it never happened with folk, it never happened with anybody's cultural music that it transformed internationally. Well, but a lot of that had to do with technology. And we are, and I think, we're in the beginning stages of the technology age. This is early. This is really, really early. This is baby step stuff. And so, I think it's an opportunity for creativity. Creativity has to reinvent agriculture. Otherwise, we're all going to not be able to anything to eat. So how do you tell the agriculture industry that you need to really recreate yourself if they don't understand the application of creativity? And so I think that's what our responsibility as artists is in cultural globalization and change. We all know our planet can't take how we behave much longer, which means we have to rely on creativity and expression to come up with new answers that don't look like tradition. Yes.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.